Good morning, Year 1. Welcome back to our story this week, which is Jack and the Beanstalk. Today we are going to sequence a story using pictures. You're going to be able to use the story map to already retell the story, and you're going to read the story map so you can sequence it. We know in our story we have 5 parts to a story. We have our beginning, our build-up, our problem, our resolution, and our ending. First, we are going to go through our actions and our words for the story Jack and the Beanstalk. So I'm going to play me doing the actions and having the story map as well to help you. If you feel really confident and you already know the actions and the words without my help, you can skip this part of the video. But if you still feel like you need some extra practice at doing those words and the actions all by yourself, then watch the next part of the video.
Once upon a time, there was a poor boy called Jack who lived with his mum in a ramshackle house. Oh, stop. One morning, they decided to sell their plumpest cow so they could have money for food. Full stop. Unfortunately, all he got for the cow was some big blue beans. Stop. When he arrived home, his mum was furious and threw them out of the window. Full stop. The very next day, the beans had grown into a towering beanstalk. Full stop. Jack climbed the beanstalk, and when he got to the clouds, he saw a hen laying golden eggs. Full stop. Suddenly, he heard fee-fi-fo-fum, and a huge, terrifying giant appeared. Full stop. Fortunately, clever Jack grabbed the expensive hen and raced back down to his house. Full stop. Jack and his mum were delighted because now they were rich. Full stop. They lived happily ever after. Full stop.
Now that you have gone through your actions and your words, you are ready to do the next part of the lesson. We are very confident at the story Jack and the Beanstalk, as now is day 4 of learning our new story. But I want to see, can you remember each part of the story? So let's start with our beginning. I have covered our story map, and I want to see if you can tell me what happens in this part of the story. I'm going to give you 10 seconds thinking time, and then you're going to tell me what happens in the beginning of our story. Okay, can you tell me what happens in the beginning of our story? Well done. In our beginning, we are introduced to our two characters, Jack and his mum, and we are told where they live, and they live in a ramshackle house. We are also told that Jack is very poor, and that is why him and his mother live in a ramshackle house that isn't very looked after. Let's move on to the build-up. Again, you're going to have 10-second thinking time, and then after our thinking time, you're going to tell me what happens in our build-up. Thinking time. Okay, thinking time is now over. Can you tell me what happens in the build-up of our story? Excellent. One day, Jack decides and his mum decides that they need money for some food, so they have to sell their plumpest cow, so their biggest cow that they've got. They have to sell it so they can have money for some food. But unfortunately, when Jack goes to sell the cow, he only gets some Well done. In the build-up, one day, Jack and his mum decide that they need to sell something that they have to get money for food, and they decide to sell their plumpest cow, so the biggest cow that they have, so they could get a lot of money so they could buy some food that they need. But unfortunately, when Jack goes to sell his cow, the person only gives him some big blue beans, and Jack has no idea what these beans do, so he is probably very upset. Now thinking to our problem, this is when something bad happens. So think, what happens after Jack gets his big blue beans? I'm going to give you 10 seconds thinking time. Okay, can you tell me what happened in our problem? What's the first thing that happened when Jack arrives home? Well done. His mum is furious when he arrives home because she was expecting money for the food, so she throws the beans out of the window. What happens after that? The next day, what happens? Fantastic. Those beans turn into a towering beanstalk outside of Jack's ramshackled house. Then what does Jack decide to do? He sees the towering beanstalk. So what is he going to do? Can you tell me? Excellent. He decides to climb the beanstalk and to see where it goes. And he ends up in the sky, in the clouds. And he's looking around in the clouds and he sees an expensive hen laying some golden eggs. He's probably very shocked. He's up in the sky and he sees a hen laying golden eggs, and that isn't normal. She's probably quite shocked. Now, our resolution, this is where something good is about to happen. Our problem is about to be solved. So I'm going to give you 10-second thinking time about what happens next after Jack sees the expensive hen laying golden eggs. 10 seconds thinking time, off you go. So what happens? He hears something. Okay, what does he hear? Excellent. Who makes that noise? A giant. Suddenly he hears fee, fi, fo, fum, and a huge, terrifying giant appears. He's probably very scared. So then what does Jack decide to do? He sees a very terrifying giant. So what is he going to do? Can you tell me? Well done. He's very clever and he decides to grab that expensive hen and he decides to race back down home. So he's going to race back down the beanstalk to get home. Why do you think Jack takes the expensive hen? Because it's going to solve all his problems. His problem at the start is that his family is really poor and they can barely afford food. So that's why he's going to grab that expensive hen from the giant and he is going to be able to sell those golden eggs and have money for food. Fantastic. And our ending of your story is using fairy tale. Something happy is about to happen is the end of the story. So who can remember what happens right at the end? 10 seconds thinking time. What happens? Are they sad or are they happy? They're really happy. In fact, they're delighted because now they are rich. Mum is very happy that she now has that expensive hen, so then she can sell those golden eggs so she can get food and clothes and everything she needs. And our classic last line, say it all together. They lived happily ever after. Fantastic. Now that we have recapped the story from the beginning all the way to the end, you are ready to do our task. Today, you are going to sequence our story from beginning, build up, problem, resolution, ending. So you have 2 sheets. You have your sheet with the text and the story map, and then you have got your grid. So you need to cut out the pictures and the text and you need to put them in order. I am going to show you now how you complete your task.
So you should have 2 sheets. You should have your task sheet here, and then you should have your text and your story map of Jack and the Beanstalk. So the first step you want to do is that you want to cut out each part of the story. Now you want to cut this out first across, and then we will cut it down the middle. So we have the story map in a pile and then we have the text in a pile. So you want to get some scissors and then you want to cut along the lines. So watch how I cut along the lines, and I'm just going to keep cutting across the lines for all parts of my story. Now if you find cutting quite hard or you find it a bit challenging trying to cut on the line, make it neat, you can always ask a grown-up in your house to help you cut out the story map and the text. So once you have cut them all across, you now need to cut them in half. So you will make a pile of the text, and then you will have the story map. And sometimes you just want to trim the excess bits off. So now I have a pile of my text and a pile of my story map, and you're just going to keep going until you've done all the parts of your story.
making 2 piles. And sometimes if you have an extra white bit at the bottom, you might also want to cut that off so they fit on our worksheet. And then the last bit I'm going to cut. Let's put this bit a bit shorter. And there. So now I have a pile of my story map, pile of my text. I'm going to challenge myself and shuffle them all up so they are not in order, and do the same with my story maps as well. Okay, so now I've got a pile of my text and a pile of my story map. So you're going to start with your beginning and you are going to find the text first. This says text, so you want to find, looking at this pile, which one is my beginning. Now I know in my beginning we are introduced to our 2 characters. Who are our 2 characters in our story? Well done, Jack and his mum. And where do they live? Exactly, they live in a ramshackled house. So we are finding the text that says Jack and his mum and a ramshackled house. And we know it's a fairy tale. It's got our classic fairy tale opener, Once Upon a Time. So we're going to look for that. One morning they decided to sell their plumpest cow. Nope. Suddenly he heard fee, fi, fo, fum. Not quite. Once upon a time, oh, this could be it, let's look. Once upon a time, there was a poor boy called Jack who lived with his mum in a ramshackled house. Excellent, we found the text, so we're going to put it there. And now we need to find the story map that matches that. So we're looking for Jack and his mum who lived in a ramshackled house. So here I can see we've got the giant, not quite that. They were delighted. They're not delighted just yet. It's only the beginning of our story. Could it be when he arrived home is furious? Oh, Mum isn't furious just yet. What about this one? Once upon a time, there was a poor boy called Jack who lived with his mum in a ramshackled house. That is it. So I'm going to put my story map there on the right. And I'm going to carry on. And I'm looking at my build up. So then you would find the text for your build up. And then you would put it here. And then you would find the story map and you'd go, I am going to stop there because I don't want to give you all the answers. So once you are happy and you have all your text and all your images here, you are going to get a glue stick and you are going to glue down your text. And then glue down your story map here. Only once you are happy. After you have glued them all down, you are going to read the text from the beginning all the way to the end, and then you're going to read your story map from the beginning all the way to the end. So by the end, all your story map will be stuck on this side and all your text will be stuck on the left. So that is what you are doing today. You're going to complete the task. So if you do have a printer, then I hope you have both the sheets and then you can cut them out and put them in order. If you don't have a printer and you're unable to have the sheets, then you can order the document and you can just write down the order 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So now I'm going to ask you to pause the video and I'm going to give you 15 minutes to do that task. When you have finished that task, I would like you to come back to the video ready for the challenge. So off you go and sequence our story, Jack and the Beanstalk. Now that you have finished your task, you are ready to do the challenge. Our challenges today is to practice spellings. Today our spellings are heard, appeared, grabbed, raced and huge. So these are words from our resolution. So I want you to practice writing down these words so you're really confident at spelling those. And if you want a super duper challenge, then put those into sentences and make sure you upload them to Seesaw. It's really important we practice our spellings because it helps with our writing next week. So off you go and have a practice of those spellings, and I can't wait to see your work on Seesaw. Good luck.